really need to try free Cialis. And some of the ads take up more bandwidth than the entire page load. I'm waiting for the page to be responsive from the JavaScript because it's still trying to load this ad from their slow server. I loaded a page and all of a sudden it starts playing a song or some random British guy talking at 100 decibels. I don't really care, I just want to look at the page. And worse is when the ads pop up like, we're an ad-supported website. If you would like to read the thing that you clicked here to maybe find out if you care about it, you're going to have to click through these 14 ads. So I set out to get rid of that. Why did I care about DNS? Well, we know host files, and they're not cool. Because I have more than one computer at home. I have devices that are trying to connect. I got people that come over. I don't want them wasting my bandwidth on ads. I don't want them dealing with it on their device. And you know, I gotta save that bandwidth for really what matters. So SecKC videos. Or maybe enter the dojo. Because if there's one thing that needs to be a CPU hub, it's this guy, Master Ken. Why did I care about free Wi-Fi? Well, I'm on Google Fiber, and for those of you that aren't, suck it. So, I mean, clearly I'm not using my gigabit of bandwidth all the time.
Take away the mic!
Also, you know, if I'm giving out free Wi-Fi, I don't want people to be hopping over to my network. You know, I do not keep the default router settings, but I do know people that come to these meetings come to my house. So I want to make it a little bit more secure. And then there's my neighbors. Every day I look at my lovely router that's set up that says, free fiber, unsecured. And I get all of their MAC addresses. I know their names. I've never met them because Tina's phone, Terry's phone, John's phone, Frank's iPad. They're great people that are trying to use my bandwidth for free, and it's fine. So instead what I do is I route them through Tor. You know, give them a little bit of the nice stuff. Also, I'm an exit node, so hey, helping people out in Egypt that need the internet. And so the process, it started with me wanting to throw my computer out the window trying to watch a Hulu video.
What's that?
I wouldn't know. Somebody told me that there's this website that's supported by all of the TV companies called something like Free TV Video Online. I don't know, but it apparently has no ads. It's kind of nice. But one of the nice things, we found a starter host file. Blocks malware sites, blocks shock sites, blocks ads. And the shock sites is really important because somebody mentioned previously, Matty McFaddy happens to be in the audience today. And when he saw this host file, he said, you know what, Octopus Girl, that can't be a shock site. Immediately puts that into his browser and realizes that people shove octopus weird places. He decided the shock sites probably needed to be on there. So I tried Bind9 because it's supposed to be the de facto standard for DNS servers. And it's got multiple files, the configuration, you gotta put it at least in 2 files, there's gonna be a lot of different stuff. Then I found DNS mask, and instead of spending hours trying to find the documentation, I spent minutes getting it set up and ready to go. So it was simple to convert from a host file to a DNS mask file. And it's even got a DHCP server that is off by default, but that is handy for the Wi-Fi set. So a little bit more about DNS real quick. According to Neotis, DNS traffic is the majority of web traffic. And so you're constantly reaching out and pinging and trying to figure out what this website is hosted at today, where DNS mask is a caching server, so if anybody on your network needs to know that this guy's going to interrupt me,
it's a surprise, right? You had no idea this was going to happen.
That's a virgin.
And on the plus side, as I am a non-alcoholic, I brought a designated shooter with me.
Wait, was that Matty McFaddy?
And that was the Octopus Girl site. Matty McFaddy. computer has its own settings for DNS cache, and if you kind of watch, like if you're in Chrome, you can go to Net Utilities DNS and you'll see how often it just clears itself. Well, this keeps it local, so the one time somebody goes, you're good. Majority of your traffic is the same websites, so why spend time and bandwidth going to 8.8.8.8 all the time for the same results? And so there's also the top 500 websites that you guys might be familiar with. So you can use DNS mask if you wanted to whitelist things, and all kinds of fun stuff with DNS. Like messing with your friends and your guests that come and they like to go to Facebook and you redirect them to MySpace. So the Raspberry Pi setup, I needed, I wanted an Ethernet port, so I didn't go with the Model A, I went with the Model B Plus, and 2 days later they came out with the Model 2. Yeah. But it was $25 for the B Plus at Micro Center versus $70 for a kit. I needed a power supply, they had it for $5. Just a generic Android phone power supply works just fine. Micro SD cards, I spent $8 to get a 16 gigabyte at Micro Center from their house brand. A Wi-Fi dongle is a decent one, it's only $20 on Amazon. If you buy the kit, it comes with a little mini Wi-Fi adapter. If you're planning to be an access point, it's not really going to help you out. So went with something that's going to be good, give you plenty of range from a whole house, and it's just going to cost me my time because I don't need a case. It came in a box. I actually just rolled up some stuff and made little pegs. I stuck it in the box, got an X-Acto knife, and cut out only the ports that I'm currently using. Works perfect. And I didn't plan it. The first day I turned off the lights after I put it inside the box. I put the little red LED on the corner of the box that actually has the raspberry on it. So now I have a little glowing raspberry telling me my DNS. And since I use Presence.
You're off.
And so my goals, obviously screw the capitalist pigs that pay my salary. I understand that things are supported by ads. I get it, everything costs money. You can ask me for a couple bucks. I would rather pay a couple bucks for a website I use, or an app that I use, instead of pop-up ads, shaking ads, sounding ads, ads that pop up in the middle of me trying to click on something, ads that pop up because I clicked on something. And cat videos are really important. All right, I don't need to know about your other channels of your other cat videos, unless it's about bacon. But that's fine. One of my other goals was an easy install. So after you set up your Raspberry Pi, I wanted to be able to have one script and you're done. Because I know people and I don't want to support them. I did want to allow DNS leakage from TOR. Like I said, I'm already in exit mode, but I might as well, if I'm forcing all of my guest users through TOR, I might as well block the ads there so somebody else doesn't have to pick up their bandwidth slack. And log all the queries. So DNS mask, pretty easy to set up. That way, if you guys use Splunk or Grok or whatever you choose to query your syslog with, it already outputs it there, and I'll go into a little bit more detail about what it specifically logs later. So time for the quotes. No. That little middle finger to AT&T is another fun story that has nothing to do with Octopus Girl. Linux admin friend of mine was trying to set up this on his home network that he went ahead and paid for the AT&T rental on that lovely modem / router that they provide. And they assume that you are going to run AT&T Uverse, and they force you to use their DNS. So if you use AT&T, you are screwed. You cannot configure your router to use this type of DNS unless you have an extra router behind it. Yeah, good for you. Yeah. Because screw AT&T. So the preparation is pretty much the same as every Pi. I've got it set up for Raspbian, which is one of the popular ones. Then you need to log into your router, give it a static IP. Give it a static IP. I had one person ask me why it wasn't working when he gave it a dynamic IP. Yeah, you can't find it later. Then you have to set that IP to your primary DNS and then 8.8.8.8, which for those of you that don't know is Google's free DNS that you can use unless you're in Brazil where it gets hacked a couple times a year. Then you've got to plug in your Wi-Fi dongle and get back onto your Pi, preferably with SSH, because why do you need to set up a new monitor and keyboard just for your Pi? Okay, the code. It's very, very hard. I've got 3 things. I've got just DNS. There's 2 commands. Get the file, run the file. If you just want to set up Wi-Fi, get the file, run the file. Why not both? Get the file, run the file. And you can do this in a stage, so if you want DNS, see how it goes, then do the Wi-Fi, see how it goes, or vice versa, that's fine.
Why not both?
So what does it do? The first thing we're going to do on the DNS mask install script is update and upgrade the current system. I do not trust any of you, so I am not doing a live demo because that has to go over Wi-Fi. Also, it takes some time, and if all of you are for some crazy reason actually on the Wi-Fi here, then it's going to be clogged, and it's going to take me a half hour just to do an update and upgrade. I do have that as a force yes, so when you run the script, it doesn't even ask you to confirm. It's just going to do it for you. The same thing happens for the DNS utils and DNS mask install. Then it creates a weekly cron task to reach out, grab the block list, pull it down, parse through using a flurry of set commands, and change that 127.0.0.1 into 0.0.0.0, so you do not have to set up a local web server to try to ping constantly. The 0.0.0.0 just automatically says, oh, there's nothing done. So again, it saves you a little bit more time. Then it immediately runs that cron task and will ask you politely if you want to turn on logging or not. So the Wi-Fi one, it's a little bit nicer. I decided to be nice to tell people what was going on. It tells you it's doing a thing, then it does it. It updates and upgrades again. It installs host APD, which is a fairly simple access point application, and grabs DNS mask because it's standalone. You may not already have it. It configures your WLAN 0 to have a static IP. Then it saves the IP tables, which I hear IP tables are a pain for some people. So this does it automatically. Then it offers the ability to set an SSID, which it checks to make sure you don't exceed the 32-character limit. And if you don't want to pick one, you know, AT&T Wi-Fi will get somebody to hop on at some point. So it defaults right there to AT&T Wi-Fi. Then it configures host APD as the access point, and more. So next, it reaches out, it grabs Tor, it configures Tor, it sets up Tor logging, and then enables Tor to start a boot. Then it routes the traffic, sands the DNS queries into Tor. So it'll first check, ping the DNS of whatever's configured. So if you don't have DNS already installed, with the first script, it'll just go to whatever your default is. It'll ping your local DNS, and then it'll go and take that and route it through Tor. Then again, it saves those IP tables, so you don't have to think about it, and it has to restart some services. DNS mask is pretty easy. You configure it on the fly, it loads everything into memory, and then you restart it to tell it to refresh that configuration file. And again, you're not required to do these together because there's a configuration directory, which is very handy when you need to configure multiple things, but didn't read the documentation right the first time. So the both script, well, yeah, it does both. So now, you've forgotten those 2 commands already. You didn't take out your camera phone to take 50 million pictures. So what do? I created a repository that's completely open. It has a README file that has those exact same instructions on it.
Is it on GitHub?
No. It's on Bitbucket. Because I have a Bitbucket account. It's so easy, even your Linux admins can do it. It's so easy, even developers can do it. It's so easy, maybe your help that. No, the staff couldn't do it. There's Ted there, he's looking out, he's like, hey, they told me to run these commands. Is format C the right one? Now if your cat is like that one down in the corner, you should take that show on the road. Don't even ask me about the script. And a Linux admin was the one that found out about AT&T sucking. Okay, so the logs. Lots of logs. As soon as there's a request that comes through, it says, so-and-so's IP requested this particular address. Then it'll tell you, did we already have it cached? I immediately told them what it was. If not, it says I forwarded it along to this DNS server. 8.8.8.8. And then it tells you what the response was. So if the response comes back as these 4 different servers, this one random IPv6 server, it tells you all of that right in the logs. And contrary to all the walkthroughs that you see, it supports IPv6 out of the box. Yes. Unlike your local router, probably. But yes, it does. So that was one of the nice things is I was going through and well, how am I going to update this to IPv6? Because that developer that tried to install it, he is also on Google Fiber, and apparently they have a secondary DNS hidden for IPv6. So he had to disable IPv6 on his regular computer so it would force it over to the Raspberry Pi. Just one of many gotchas that I don't care about. Alright, so lessons learned. Bind 9 will hurt your head trying to decipher their documentation. All kinds of pains with Bind 9. I mean, it says, oh, it's simple, it's easy. All you do is turn it on and then you configure this RPZ node. Then you have to add another line in the main file. Then you have to create 5 lines in that RPZ file that tells it to point to your original RPZ. And that's way too much processing compared to DNS mask. DNS mask, I say here's a host file. Get rid of everything that starts with the pound sign because it's comments. Remove all 127.0.0.1. Replace it with the formatting address equals / name of the server / 0.0.0.0. Done. Oh, and delete any random Windows carriage returns and things like that. That's also in there. As I mentioned before, use the configuration folder instead of the main file for DNS mask. As you know, I did the first one, pretty easy, simple hack, and then I decided to do the TOR part and realized I was going to have to reconfigure my weekly cron job just to add an extra line to the end of the file. So I went back and I fixed that. It's much nicer. The cron weekly folder, this prevents your user from having to hop in and do any manual coding, because in your batch script you can't natively edit the exact cron task process that you want because it forces human entry. So instead you can just use the cron weekly folder. You need to test it, and then bring in John C. And that bottom picture is just for him. To go ahead and divide by 0. That is the guy that I call when I need to make sure it won't break. Everybody needs that guy. It's the tester that was like, I don't know what happened. I hit Control 742.9 Enter, and it did this. Why would you do that? It didn't tell me I couldn't. I was following the instructions, honest. Did you do step 3? Well, I did step 2. What step are you on now? 4. Did you do step 3? I'm on step 4. Now you know why it had to be one single thing. Because one file and one step after you've configured your network. Otherwise, that guy is going to find a way, he's going to break it, and it's going to suck. Because he's going to ask you questions. I did find that any file can be grabbed from Bitbucket. It actually has a simple format. You just have to have the user, the repo, then you use raw, and you can even pick the branch. So if you decided that you want to go off on a special branch name and get the file, that totally works right there. I did find that out the hard way when I set it up to the current revision file in the raw section. And I kept trying to do an update, wondering why I was getting nothing. So I was just wasting downloading and reapplying the exact same file every week. So that one's a little important for the process to actually work. And there we go. So right up there at the top is where you can go on Bitbucket to grab this. And all of you are awesome for listening and laughing occasionally at jokes I had pre-written.